Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 6 of Quattroporte, the review series for the 4-door sports and super saloons that are featured on Gran Turismo 6. And in this episode we're featuring something of a speciality car within the saloon car category. It is an iconic and legendary machine that is of course the 1991 Mercedes 190E Evo 2. It has a 2.5 litre engine that's tuned by Cosworth, driving the rear wheels, and despite not having a turbo or supercharger to aid its power on Gran Turismo, it still puts out, when fully tuned, a very respectable 413 brake horsepower. Now the torque figure of 286 pound-feet doesn't sound that great, and all things considered, it's not all that great when you compare it to many of the other super saloons. But the thing that you have to bear in mind about this car is it's very light, and it's also primarily designed for its cornering ability, not to demolish the drag strip or to pull a caravan. Those are the occasions where you need torque, when you've got a lot of weight to shift or when you're looking for pure straight line grunt. This car doesn't need either of those things. It's light, it's nimble, and it's grippy. So it doesn't need torque. It needs power, low weight, and a good power to weight ratio, and that's exactly what it's got. Naturally aspirated power means that there's no lag. The low weight means that the response in the steering is much quicker than in many of its much heavier rivals. And incidentally, the weight is a very reasonable 1,097 kilos, which significantly undercuts many of the other saloon cars that are on GT6. And thanks to that very low weight, combined with its relatively modest power, it still has a very respectable power to weight ratio of 376 horsepower per tonne. But, technically speaking, the only thing that this car shares in common with most of the other cars, if not all of the other cars in this series, is that it has 4 doors. Apart from that technicality, this is nothing like any of the other sports saloons or super saloons of the series. It is, as I said at the start of the video, a speciality car, specifically a homologation special. Now, this car is a DTM homologation special, which is German touring cars, and its main rivals were things like the Mercedes, or BMW I should say. This is the Mercedes. Its main rival was the BMW E30 M3, but it also went up against vehicles like the Ford Sierra RS 500, both of which obviously have homologation models, and those are this car's main rivals. But unfortunately neither of those cars are available on Gran Turismo yet. So of the vehicles that are on the game, arguably this car's main rivals would be cars like the Lancia Delta, Audi Quattro and the Ford RS200. Now obviously they are rally homologation specials, but still, a homologation special is a homologation special. And although one is for rally and one is for touring, they do share a lot of things in common. Very limited production numbers, typically have flared or blistered arches, big crazy rear wings and body kits, and ultra obscure, very highly valued today. And they share all of those things in common. So really, the Lancia Delta is as great a rival for this car as any of the saloons are. But obviously, for the sake of this series, we have to compare it to the other saloons. And the fact is that in a straight line, unsurprisingly, it does fall behind its rivals. But considering that many of said rivals have more than double the power, it's not exactly a fair comparison. Or so you'd think. Because the reality of it is that not that many people on Gran Turismo race 900 horsepower saloons. Some people might, but most people don't. A lot of people, however, do race 500 pp vehicles. And considering that fully tuned this Mercedes sits at 503 pp, that puts it smack dab perfect for being slightly detuned to that level. And at that level, or even down to 450 or even 475 pp, it is a highly competitive machine within its own speciality niche. Now what is that niche? Well, as we said, it lacks the straight line power of some of the other models, but it's light, it's grippy, it's nimble, and it's fun. And those four things put together give you a pretty much perfect track car. And if you choose twisty tracks where your rivals don't have the chance to use their power and torque, this car is highly competitive. Now that may sound like a bit of a cop-out to say that you have to limit the car to those kind of events, but it's not a cop-out. It's just about knowing what your car's good at and using it for that. And in the case of this car, if you put it on a track like Special Stage Route X or Monza, you're going to lose. If you put it on a track like the Nürburgring Ring or Laguna Seca, you've got a pretty good chance of winning, even against vehicles that are faster in a straight line. So, overall, yeah, it's expensive. It's a 68 grand car, but you're not paying for its performance like you are with many of the other models. You're paying for a legend that can actually live up to the legend. And for that, it's a cool car. So if you haven't bought the 190E, I'd at least encourage you to consider doing so. And that's it for this episode. So I'll see you guys next time. And as always, thanks for watching.